Hank Williams III to kick all this fish notes, and it's going to be a good one because we got some beautiful fish, shrimp, and crabs in the house. So let's get ready and talk about why we got all this fall abundance to sell and get people excited about for the weekend. So let's get into the goal for the weekend, y'all. Okay, last week we were talking to engage new staff with Oyster Lingo, standard customer questions, displays, procedures, etc. This week we're going to get people excited about the fall because it's the best damn time of the year to eat seafood in North Carolina. We've got fresh shrimp right off the beach at Carolina Beach. We've got plenty of crabs and fish galore from harvesters across the state. In terms of team effectiveness, last week we were prepping for oyster washing and selling. We're going to continue that. I'm going to get the cooler back to to CB, so we'll start figuring out how the best way to get oysters displayed and sold are for the season. So let's do some good experiments these first couple of weeks and make some adjustments so we got the best plan in place to deal with oysters at both locations. So think innovation, think smart, and work smart so we can make the oyster season a good one. Okay, holiday events. We've got the Pleasure Island Fishing Tournament this weekend. Oyster season just opened. We are in the thick of local seafood production. So we're going to get some oysters coming from Sneed's Ferry and Beaufort probably tomorrow morning. We'll let you know more about what quantities are look like later this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning. The weather, we're finally got some beautiful weather this weekend, y'all. So that's going to bring people out. Be ready for both stores. They're going to be coming. Email highlights. We highlighted jumbo shrimp. I don't have the other ones here, but it's black drum and red drum and gray trout. Got plenty of those fish. So, yeah, get people excited. Price changes. Reduce the Maryland oysters to try to stay in line with the market. We're trying to be real competitive on our prices this year because we want to own. We were trying to grab market share of oyster sales in Wilmington. So we're going to be aggressive with our prices so we can continue to move volume. Specials, we got $11 a pound live lobsters, $39 half bushel mixed crabs, 5 pounds plus on jumbo heads on and tails, $1 off per pound. And shark steaks, try to burn them out this week at $7 a pound. Or just give people them to try. And we got so much fish, the time is to be generous. Okay, moving on to crustaceans. Sam is crabbing this afternoon. So we'll have a few more today, probably some more tomorrow and Sunday. So we should have plenty of mixed crabs. We may be limited on number ones. We'll see. Lobster is still on special, $11 a pound. Keep them rolling. They've been selling great. Shellfish. More clams tomorrow. When the water opens up, we'll go harvest more stump sound culture to try to get through some of our oysters before we get full demand taken care of with the wild oysters. Live mussels are in the house. Aim to sell out of those on Sunday. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to talk a little bit about oyster production in southeastern North Carolina, just to give everyone a general overview if you haven't heard me talk about oysters before. So everyone and all of our customers that are oyster salty, well, we get oysters from, the Mason-Burl Sound all the way to Beaufort, and they are always salty because they're our local oysters. We call them local, and we've got 3 different types: local clusters, local standard selects, local standard singles, and local select singles, and I'll get into those more in a second. But all of those local oysters are always 9 times out of 10 going to be salty, unless you have a whole heck of a lot of rain. Sometimes they're not as salty as what people are used to. But our oysters come from inlets, so ocean water is constantly filtering across bed, and oysters are filter feeders, so they're going to resemble the salty water that they grow in. But you're going to have customers ask, are they topsail selects? Are they topsail clusters? Are they stump sounds? Well, you can tell them, like, look, we sell so many oysters. We buy oysters from everywhere from, Point South in Brunswick County, very rarely, but we sometimes do buy from down there, all the way up to Beaufort so that we can keep good salty oysters in the house at all times. And the harvest tags will tell the story of where the oysters came from. We're working on getting maps in there to show exactly where locations are. But when people say they ask for locations, they half the time don't even know what they're asking for. But that's where the oyster was harvested. The actual characteristics of the oyster I'm going to talk about here in just a second. But that's a little bit about oysters harvest general background. The other thing to know is that when tides are low in the middle of the day, so if you have a high noon, high tide on a Wednesday, that's going to be a great week for oysters. You're going to see a lot of oystermen coming to drop off oysters. We're going to get piles of oysters in the market. And then the following week, when the high tide is at noon, okay, on Wednesday, then you're going to have less of a time for these guys to get oysters because the water's covering them during the sunny part of the day. So you have more demand because there's less oysters on the market, and less oysters in the house because there's less people can actually get to them. Only the smart harvesters know where to go and how to harvest during those times. All right, so that's a general overview of oyster harvesting. So let's get into what we actually sell. The first thing we talk about is our local cluster oysters. And by the way, these descriptions are all on Dropbox. You just have to search oyster descriptions and they will come up. And we're going to print these out and laminate them in the store so that customers can see them. We can continue to refer to them when we talk about our oysters. The first is a local cluster oyster. They're harvested again from Wrightsville Beach to Beaufort, and they're created when oysters grow together on one single shell. So seed will attach to a dead shell, and then all of a sudden you have like a blooming cluster. And these are good bargains. They're the cheapest oysters we sell. It takes the oysterman less labor to harvest them. That's why they're less pricey. Clusters range in size. Sometimes you'll get clusters with huge, big single oysters attached to them. Sometimes you'll get a bunch of medium ones on one single thing. So it all depends on the harvest area, where they're harvesting, the tidal cycle. If you got good tides to get oysters, then you're going to have better clusters, and the expertise of the harvester. So you'll get some people in here that don't know so much about harvesting. They'll bring junkier oysters. We try to not buy those, but occasionally, they will get into our lineup. So that's what's happening when you see these things. The oysters have a delicious salty flavor and economical for oysters. Cluster oysters are always salty. I mean, that's the nature of those types of oysters. They grow in salty waters. All right, so the next is our local standard singles. All right, these are pretty much these are singles that are knocked from clusters. So sometimes when we get low on singles, we'll go into the back and we will break down clusters and kind of use a knocking tool to break clusters into singles. And these are standard singles are usually going to be smaller, more bladey oysters, but we do this just to keep singles in the house. Some people only want singles, they don't want clusters. They're more expensive than cluster oysters because obviously you're going to get more oysters in a bushel and it takes more labor to make singles. They're going to range in size and shape depending on the harvest area, the tidal cycle, and the expertise of the harvester, just like the other ones. Okay. Local select singles. Now these are the biggest and best single oysters of the week, and they're typically going to come from the tops. The stump sound, sometimes the tassel sound, and then we've got another connection outside of Morehead City, the North River, where these come from. And these are rockier oysters. They're still salty, but they're the biggest and the best of a saltwater single oyster. And experienced harvesters have to know where these are because these aren't easy to find. You have to either know where to dig for them or tong, and tongs are the things they hang off the boat like big rakes, and they go over and pull the oysters up from the bottom. Or in some cases, people put wetsuits on and dive for these oysters. So they are, these are the select singles. When people ask for stump sounds, this is what they're talking about. And again, these are the biggest and best of the week, and we are on the hunt to always get these, making sure we're stocked, but it is the highest demanded oysters. These are the ones that people are going to be asking for, and we're going to have to stay organized so that we don't over or undersell, or better yet, just continue to buy so we always have a steady flow. Okay, Pamlico Sound oysters. Pamlico Sound are harvested from the deep waters of North Carolina's largest internal watershed. These large, rockier oysters are harvested using long tongs, which they have really long rakes, or dredges that reach down into deep water. They're typically bigger, fuller, and a little less salty than their southeastern North Carolina cousins. They have a rich, meaty, almost buttery flavor and makes them great for roast and half-shell dishes. So restaurants really like these oysters. These are honestly my favorite. I like them because I don't like the real salty bite. And these have a nice kind of rich, flavorful with a little bit of salt. And yeah, they're my favorite. But a lot of times, in a lot of markets, people don't know about them, so they don't ask them. But I always if you want to get somebody turned on to them, give them a few to try. I don't know if we'll have any here. We might have a few tomorrow. I'm not sure if we're going to have them selling retail or wholesale, but these are going to have a steady supply as well through the summer, or through the fall and into the winter. All right, Maryland oysters, Chesapeake Bay, which is what we have in the house now. These are harvested from the deep waters of Chesapeake Bay and its rivers. These are larger, rockier oysters, are harvested using long tongs and dredges that reach deep into the water. They're typically bigger, fuller, and less salty than North Carolina oysters, but they have a rich, meaty flavor sought after by oyster bars nationwide. So these oysters are perfect for restaurants. I love to put them on a half shell, put cheese and whatever the hell else they put on them to make them, this kind of exotic thing. But they're easy to work with in restaurants. We sell a lot of these to our restaurant clientele, and we don't really sell as much retail unless we have a lot of water, and we have a lot of waters. a lot of rain, it'll shut our beds down, and we have to turn to these so we don't not have oysters in the house. So that's a little bit about the crash course in our oyster sales and our management. Ask me questions, ask senior staff questions, and we're going to get good at talking about our oysters and marketing them to our clientele. We want to be the experts, not just salespeople. We want to be the experts. So try our oysters, eat our oysters, study up about them, ask questions of our customers. And the more we know, the more we can help our customers find what they're looking for. So remember that. All right, switching into shrimp notes. Bait shrimp from CB. Denny's bringing 200 more pounds today, hopefully in the afternoon. I'm not sure when he'll be in. Fresh shrimp this week were caught right off the beach at CB. Plenty of jumbo tails, large tails, maybe limited. Run 5-pound specials on jumbo heads on and tails. Midtown run a farm raised 60-70 for smaller heads on grade. And keep the jumbos on the counter. The fresh ones. Okay. Fish. Fuck fish. We got it all this weekend. Plenty of spots, plenty of flounder, plenty of Popeye mullet and bluefish. I'll tell you what, the Popeye mullet and bluefish we have in the house right now, yeah, people say, oh, those are bait, those are gamey. I'm trying to get the time to smoke them, and I'll bring y'all some because both of those fish are fantastic smoked. I mean, fantastic. They are amazing, and they're cheap. So, you know, hopefully, I know most people don't get into it, but man, if they did, if they knew how good they were, they'd be doing it. We've got plenty of red drum, black drum. I'd like to use the red drum to cut for the counter if y'all, that'd be the first one to cut. But black drum can be cut as well. We've got plenty of gray trout, probably a little too much gray trout. So that's one of the fish to get, you know, if people want bulk deals, it's a good one to go. Sheep's head, we've got plenty of grouper, beautiful local grouper, yellowfin tuna, salmon, swordfish, catfish. We got it going on. So cut deal on bulk fish orders, give people samples, and for the next 3 weeks, you're going to have this stock fish counter, so let's keep it moving. The more we keep it moving, keep buying and keep our counter fresh. Okay, I know this is getting long, but last company notes, seasonal change in the air. Fall means seafood abundance, and it's a time to keep seafood moving on our counters. It means letting product go at good prices, so we can keep our fish moving. It means good bulk deals on high quality fish. It means the last months of fresh shrimp season. It means our oyster washers are going to be spinning. And it means plenty of blue crabs. Be generous so we can keep fishermen fishing and our counters moving. All right, I'm going to leave you, let's see. I'm going to leave y'all with a little bit more Hank III with some Dostoevsky, which is a combination of people that may have never been united on the internet before. So here we go. Dostoevsky and Hank Williams III. Y'all have a great weekend, and let's get this oyster season off to a good start. I'm stoked, and hopefully you guys are going to have a great start to the weekend.
Smoke and a whole lot of wine.